I've been gone for 2 months. Hello. Apparently you guys think it's appropriate to call the psych ward when a YouTuber does an innocent lore video. Fortunately, I was able to get out because it's spooky month. Today will be different because instead of explaining the lore, we will be exploring it. Together you and I will be uncovering secret codes, images, and ancient texts. Only this time I won't just be giving you the answer. We'll learn how the Spooky Month community were able to decode the entire thing. The video itself is the longest Spooky Month episode, but the premise is simple. Skid's mother is pretty shaken up after the events of the previous episode, resulting in her being absent in her son's life. Pump's parents were never really active to begin with and still aren't. First, we'll cover the short Streber's rehearsal before the full episode. It briefly covers Streber organizing his haunted house attraction with his friends. There's a lot of foreshadowing.
At this all morning and my arm is starting to get really tired. Last thing I want is for it to fall off.
Don't die on us, okay?
I gotta hand it to Sr Pelo, he really knew what he was doing. Wait, that joke doesn't work. I gotta arm it to Sr Pelo, he really knew what he was doing. The full episode starts off through Moloch's perspective, where we end around the time he's being dissected. Briefly, we see a painting and tape which moves too quickly to be readable. The mannequin blocks away, turning its head before being shoved. A giant spider appears having blue eyes, which I'm not going to look into too much at the moment. I have seen theories that the spider is actually the one moving the mannequin with a piece of string, which is sort of disproven in the first scene the spider is in. The spider being on the other side of the attic would not be able to move the mannequin's head to the left. Congrats to some of you who were able to recognize the spider from the first few episodes. We see Skid mention his dad for the first time.
Are you throwing away that stuff,
No!
Mom?
His passing/leaving could have been recent since he still feels some connection to his dad. Fun fact, Pump's grandpa used to be a mailman. There's a lot of lore tidbits I almost always miss out on because they are on Sr Pelo's X account. So give that a follow, I guess, if you still use that hellhole of a social media platform. Leela drops them off and the two proceed to hang out and cause havoc across the town. They decide to annoy Mayor Evermore. Wait, that's the same guy from Leela's photograph. What kind of power do these two hold?
I already told them to send the body.
Why is it that they're discussing a body? Is it Moloch's or Bub's body? Or is it the body of a person who found out too much information? Everything seems pretty vague at the moment and probably will be for some time. Moloch reveals himself in front of Patty before we cut to Father Gregor. He's helping out an old lady who lost her son, Dexter. Yeah, that cat is probably dead. Skid and Pump then encounter Father Gregor. He's the only priest I would trust around children. The two interact and have a heartfelt moment. We learn Father Gregor does not have children of his own and Skid and Pump have parents who are absent in their lives. Skid still feels sad about his father being gone, and so Father Gregor and them go around the town asking for forgiveness. Skid and Pump are under the impression that this will make their parents love them. They offer to pay the money they owe Kevin and he refuses. The priest then gives him and his friends some holy water. Damn, get yourself a man who hates customer service but is actually really good at it. Father Gregor is not happy interacting with Frank, which sucks because he just wants to help the children. He's the only van driver I would trust around children. Moloch, disguised as Patty, helps this old lady find a doctor. It's quite possible that Moloch can only transform into people he has killed or possess. Oh, really important detail here, when Skid and Pump are apologizing to this angry house owner named Ignacio, we see bandages on his right hand and chest. His house is pretty messed up and we also see a revolver lying on his table, as well as some photographs. We then see him call someone on a phone. The doctor here seems to be engaging in under-the-table practices as he goes into the morgue. He's in search of a body the mayor ordered to get rid of, which we can only really speculate as to why. Perhaps this person was murdered for knowing too much, and as a result they have to collect the body to prevent any investigation. Suspiciously, the mayor and Father Gregor interact with each other, while Skid and Pump apologize to Roy. The three of them enter the hospital, and yep, that grandma is dead. Pump's eyes glow blue again before the three of them run away. Schreiber is also alive, albeit missing an arm. A large chunk of the Spooky Month fan base have simped for this character. Oh look, a QR code. Let's save that for later. Jack and John are tasked with looking after the kids whilst Father Gregor figures out what to do. No, John's daughter isn't dead, this is a costume, as can be seen by the halo attachment. Skid and Pump return to Father Gregor where they perform an exorcism. Moloch escapes in his full form. Wood. Moloch is pretty powerful, being able to manifest as two of his victims to guilt Father Gregor. Moloch's name is revealed by Skid and Pump, allowing Father Gregor more power over him. Moloch escapes and the three begin chasing him. I find it interesting that the mayor and his assistant are trying to get a building destroyed. Dude, this guy does not give a shit. Moloch then hides inside of Skid and Pump. After expelling the demon, Father Gregor makes his way to the attic where he sends Moloch back to hell, or kills him. Either way, it is entirely possible that we might see him later in the series. Father Gregor calls Leela out for being irresponsible. He also mentions the fact that she is a widow, which confirms that Skid's father isn't just gone from the home, he's dead. Father Gregor, upon returning to the church, is ambushed by the cult members. What I find most interesting about this part of the episode is that we know the mayor works with the cult, as can be seen by the big giant cult sign outside his office, as well as other aspects of his character design. If the mayor is a part of the cult and he talked to the priests, then why did the cult members capture him? We can assume the mayor has insiders regarding the inner workings of the hospital. Did the mayor order his capture because the priest was interfering? Was it because he got rid of Moloch? The mayor is, after all, in charge of the town, so it would make sense for him to be at the top of the hierarchy. Father Gregor enters a gateway before seeing the eyes of the universe, and after losing his sanity, he finally succumbs to it and worships it. Whether he'll come back as a future antagonist, cult member, or is stuck in whatever dimension he was placed in is a mystery. Mr. Wonder returns and hands Pump a gift he bought, telling him it was purchased by his parents. Skid and Leela have a heartfelt moment before we finally return to the attic where we take the view of a spider who props up the mannequin. I do wonder what Sr Pelo is up to. This imagery seems really specific. What is the mannequin and the spider's role in this series? Some people have theorized that the spider itself is actually Skid's dad, which I don't believe to be the case. Otherwise, the spider would have certainly helped out in protecting his family against the many monsters we've seen, which, just to remind you, the mannequin has actually done. Perhaps he only interferes when he sees his owner's possessions being taken. Perhaps the photograph that was stolen reminded him of his owner? We'll be getting into the ARG aspect of the episode, but this time we'll go through how the Spooky Month ARG Discord server was able to get the answer, step by step. At 1450, we see this QR code, the first major clue. This leads us to an investigative board that Jack, John, and Patty are standing in front of. The image itself seems to be the aftermath of the episode, as we see Father Gregor's photograph with the words, "Where is he?" We assume some time has passed since the start of the investigation. It would be interesting if Patty, after saying she was going to become a cop to legally own a gun, is now investigating the town's cult as her first case. The fired mortician likely refers to the doctor who was secretly corrupt. Binary code appears beneath the article. The symbols towards the top also seem somewhat important for solving the ARG. 3 links appear on the bottom pieces of the paper. The first link leads us to this image, a collection of memories from John's childhood, as well as his newborn daughter, Hope. If you pay close attention, we see the neighbor's gun on the table. It may seem a bit of a stretch to assume that Ignacio would own this exact gun, but consider that the images follow a similar placement pattern to the episode itself. Ignacio was probably burnt in an attempt to burn down John's house, hence why he has bandages over his body. He works for the cult and was somehow able to obtain the photographs of John's personal life. As to what past history they have is uncertain. John seems to be the cop in charge of the cult's investigation though, so Perhaps Ignacio holds some sort of hatred towards him specifically. Now pay attention, because this is going to get really interesting. There are 7 matches in the box, giving us a number. The 2 burnt matches are joined together to make a T, giving us 7T. The second link shows us Moloch having escaped. There's a bit of a mess scattered everywhere. The lockers on the left have an interesting pattern. Some of them are coloured in, whilst others aren't. Assuming that this follows the sequence of binary code, we get 0100110, ignoring the lockers covered in blood. This gives us the letter N. Now look at the pills at the bottom of the screen. They represent the Mayan number 0. We get the letter N and the number 0. The third link takes us to a forest with trees containing eye shapes. Recall the Latin text we covered before and the sentient trees who acted as vessels. The shape of the trees represent letters spelling out V, G, and P. Putting everything together in the correct sequence, we get N0VGP7T, filling out the missing link. This leads us to a text that appears to be far older than the previous collected books. Not only is it in scroll form, but utilizes different symbols to come up with the translation. The scroll on the left side hints to the letters on the right side. The up arrow represents an uppercase, the down arrow represents a lowercase, and the hashtag represents a number. 2 days were spent to decode the scroll on the right side. In Paradise Lost, a famous religious fictional work, Moloch is described as a horrid king besmeared with blood of human sacrifice and parents' tears. The crown represents Moloch. The first part of the crown is coloured in, almost as if there are 3 letters representing each of the 3 points, making it a 3-letter word. King in Latin translates to Rex, so taking in only the shaded area, we get the letter R. The second letter is easy. XIII means 13 in Roman numerals, with the 13th alphabet being M. The third letter is a bit of a red herring. It may refer to the Greek letter delta. However, the line on the right side of the delta symbol is slightly thickened, which is not present in this symbol. Given that the left side of the scroll is a hashtag, we can assume that the symbol on the right side is a number. 3 sides to a triangle, so the number is 3. The fourth letter is the Greek symbol for alpha. However, the left side shows us that it is a number. A is the first letter of the alphabet, so we get 1. The 5th letter is a man on fire. Interpreting this as a sacrifice, we return to the previous text, where it was told to us that 6 children would need to be sacrificed for a ritual. In this instance, we interpret this as the number 6. The 6th letter is 12. 12 is a letter, we can interpret this as the letter L. The 7th letter is the same, but the uppercase arrow gives us an uppercase L. The 8th letter is a square. There are 4 sides to a square, yet the up arrow does not make it a number. The 4th letter of the alphabet is D. The 9th letter is written in Morse code, a dash with a dot under it. On the left side, however, we observe the key contains a dot over the dash instead. Putting everything together, the Morse code value gives us P. The 10th letter is simply counting the lines around the circle. There's about 16 lines, giving us the 16th letter of the alphabet, P. The 11th symbol was difficult. According to the Discord summary, a research paper called Counting YouTube Videos via Random Prefix Sampling was used to bring the options down to C, G, K, O, S, or W. Using the correct solution, however, the letter M in Roman numerals translates to 1,000. A kilo in Greek means 1,000. It's why we say we have 1K in money, or why we weigh things in a kilogram. Assuming we're not American and don't measure things in 7-ounce Burger King meal boxes per millisecond, we get the letter K. Using the solution for a YouTube link, we get a single diamond shape in the center of the screen. We'll come back to this, but moving on, in each of the ARG images, we see lines pointing towards a circle. The top left of the Latin scroll contains this unique shape with lines surrounding a circle too. We can take this unique object and place it over the other lines. This is actually really smart. The candle is placed over the other lines until they are aligned. The flame will then point to the object of interest. In this instance, this piece of plastic is being pointed to and contains 6 circles. making it a 6. Otherwise, each part of the flame will point to an object, giving us the letter. When put together into a link, we get this, a portrait of Skid's dad. When increasing the contrast of the video, we get a circle around the diamond shape. We also see Skid's dad have a diamond on his face. The diamond symbol we have seen throughout the series actually represents an eye, constantly watching us. Now, into the YouTube video we got from the ARG solution, the 95 represents a dash, whilst the 46 represents a dot. Some translation was done using the ASCII table for other parts of the sentence, whilst the actual dot in the title is assumed to be a space. We then get the word grass. Then there's a description. The first part of the equation is a position of the letter in an alphabet. The second part of the equation is calculated, giving us the position of the actual letter. In instances where there is a minus, we simply go backwards and get the letter. It translates to I see you. We can put the sound of the video into a spectrogram. This part was out of my field to analyze, although you can see a summary for yourself by joining the Spooky Month ARG server. Through the solution, we get a list of letters. The Caesar cipher was used by Julius Caesar to encrypt messages. In this cipher, by moving the letter forward 3 times, B for example, would translate to E. Using a Caesar cipher, we get these letters. Moving it forward by 3, we don't actually get the right answer. Instead of moving the letter forward 3 times, let's move it forward until we get coherent text. At number 15, we have Burger King foot letter. At number 14, we have the text. Drowned by the time, dazed by my shine, lost in the sky of all, shall grasp the last haul. Putting all the lines together into the previous Spooky Month ARGs, we read the following poem. Gaze upon my light, gone beyond my night. Don't hide in the darkness, join within my brightness, for the vessel has rotten, you will not be forgotten. Drowned by the time, dazed by my shine, lost in the sky of all, shall grasp the last haul. I'm sure as well you would like to read what the book translates to. This user on Twitter provided some valuable information. The text in its entirety reads, Dread runs through my blood. I shall never be myself again. Colors shall fade, the music of wind shall cease, the bread untouched will perish. Sense of touch will fade away, and the scene of a new day shall depart. Embraced by the darkness of night, I see myself obscured, hidden from the eyes. Therefore, I will not allow my life to go untreated as a rag, grey and left behind. I've spoken with some godlike being, fiery by nature as a sphere set in the wood, knowledge bestowed upon by the king. With the dark sun risen into the sky, I shall begin to pray to the burning god, and there shall rise a prayer of brazen blasphemy. The king shall ask for tribute, 6 offerings pure in flesh and spirit, to reach beyond the divine self, or to reach beyond the body to the divine. Then, and only then, shall another day bloom. I beseech you, O benevolent blaze, protect me, free me from the eternal night. Shivers run down my hands, the weight of sin, life, guilt. The pleading of youth will never leave my ears. Fear corrupts my sense. But the king answered, the essence of will and the vessel of flesh touched by earth, just as the tree and its leaves, just as the soil and its pastures. Celestial bodies stand as if to govern how you live, dream, love, create. Celestial selves conceal in the abyss, just as if by the night, for the hollow light will pursue the sinner who disrupts the fate of time itself forever. I thank you, Saturn, for having heeded my prayers, and for bestowing me the knowledge of 1,000 nights. Horror runs through my mind, fragile and human. Forgive me for having brought myself to life. Forgive me for the offspring born into darkness. Forgive me for the sin of both day and night. Forgive me on account of those who will never depart or die. Forgive me for having brought you into life. May the stars guide me, and may darkness embrace me. Before we begin the interpretation, I'd like to point out that previous Spooky Month ARGs involved a book. The books are in Latin translation. This time, however, we find a scroll. The scroll uses the ancient Greek alphabet, which is then translated into Latin. Mentions of the god Saturn, the candle itself, could be seen as much older candle type. These all point to the scroll being very old. The beginning of the script is of course referring to the simple passage of time. It seems the author is protected by the eye, a reference we have seen quite a lot in previous texts. In this instance, the author is protected under the cover of darkness. But here's where things get interesting. I was actually wrong in my previous videos. I assumed that the sacrifice of 6 children was used to worship the eyes of the universe. In this case, the references to Moloch we read in the solution to the translation, as well as the sentence, "fiery by nature as a sphere set in the wood," refers to Moloch. Staying on topic, Moloch needed the sacrifice of 6 children to reach beyond the divine itself. It seems that Moloch will protect the townspeople from an eternal night caused by the eyes of the universe. If anything, should they ever meet each other, they would probably be enemies. It seems that the author was plagued by guilt after sacrificing the children. Moloch is known for being responsible for the sacrifice of children. We then see references to the growth of trees and discussion of growth through soil. Interesting, considering that Saturn is responsible for agricultural growth. I think the line "celestial bodies stand as if to govern how you live, dream, love, create" refers to the concept of fate itself, later backed up by the line "the hollow light will pursue the sinner who disrupts the fate of time itself forever," implying that anyone who messes with this fate shall be punished. Entering theory territory, I believe the last lines are referring to the eyes of the universe. Now hear me out. The author of the story messed with fate in an attempt to gain knowledge, spiritual guidance, and protection by Moloch. As a result, he disturbed the celestial body's nature in organizing how the universe worked. We know that anyone who messes with this light will be pursued. The last lines, "forgive me for having brought myself to life, forgive me for the offspring born into darkness, forgive me for the sin of both day and night, forgive me on account of those who will never depart or die, forgive me for having brought you into life, may the stars guide me and may darkness embrace me," is incredibly interesting when put under this context. I'm curious as to what this disturbance of fate does, considering the author asked for forgiveness on account of those who will never depart or die, almost as if this ritual disturbs the nature of the afterlife. But we now know the eyes of the universe came into existence. A man fearing the reality of time and fate goes to Moloch for help, sacrificing 6 children in order to summon him. In the line, "fear corrupts my sense, but the king answered," we know that Moloch departed knowledge as to the workings of the universe to our author. As a result, the eyes of the universe were summoned to pursue the sinner, perhaps staying permanently in the mortal plane. This is where the cult perhaps fails. In their attempt to harness power from the eyes of the universe, they fail to realize that nothing is in their control. Quite possibly, and even likely, they have read the scroll and warnings and refuse to heed them. Perhaps the unimaginable horror that drives people to insanity upon staring at the eyes of the universe is the realization that nobody controls their fate. Everything, every evil, every good, every action, and every inaction is simply out of our hands, controlled by other beings. Perhaps one can only become insane if they are smart enough to understand the horrific implications of having every action and consequence controlled by an uncaring eldritch being. That might be why Roy, his friends Skid and Pump, and Kevin all seem to be mostly unaffected by the eyes of the universe, or at least not driven to the point of insanity the way Father Gregor is. The secret ending shows us that the 2 thieves at the start of the episode were ordered by the cult to infiltrate Skid's house. Did Skid's dad go against the cult before he died? Maybe he has the answer they're all looking for. Maybe he found out the truth and decided he no longer wanted to be a part of the cult. Now, I have to ask you, if you yourself saw what everyone else saw in the eyes of the universe, would you too go insane?